line, Donna Marie Carey. Things are changing again. Anybody got some things changing again?
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you want to take a lot of pressure off of yourself, all you have to do is stop trying to keep things from changing. One thing I like about the Course is it always tells us what's impossible, what we just need to just forget. And so, I am learning to welcome change. Since that's what's going to happen anyway. So to be the smart move would be to stop trying to fight it and just go ahead and accept it, and then accept that every change that you're going through, according to the way of mastery, every change that we're going through is being orchestrated by the divine to bring into our lives exactly the people and circumstances and situations that will speed up our awakening better than any other method. So that means everything and everybody in your life right now, they're there because they're the best people in best situations and best circumstances to boost your awakening process. And I'm glad that thrilled you. I'm always happy to thrill that we get when we hear the truth. It's always amazing. But I understand. We're on page 242 in the part 2 of the Way of Transformation in the Way of Mastery, if you have the books.
Is it lesson 20?
In lesson 20, we're going to be doing Observing Your Choices.
Really?
Yes. Don't get too depressed with that.
Except for him.
Okay, the first thing that we're told is to look well in this moment. And I'm going to go slow enough to hear what I'm reading. Stop and look inside your mind. Then I want you to observe this simple day that you've been living so far. What do you think about this day that you've been living so far? And ask yourself, what have I desired in this day? What have I desired in this day? In this day, what have I desired? Ask yourself, what have I desired? What have I desired in this day? And then allow your memory to bring to you all the choices that you made today. So I'd like you to take a quick trip back to when you woke up this morning. And I want you to think just for a minute what you have desired so far this day. Again, no suicide attempts, okay? Or you might feel really grateful. I've had some incredibly powerful, wonderful experiences today. I want you to look at those choices for whatever feelings or perceptions and thoughts you may have had today. And then look upon the feelings and perceptions and thoughts you may have had today. Look at those with perfect innocence. Even if the thoughts were something that you think was less than loving and less than positive, just look at it with perfect innocence. Those were just the feelings that you had. Even if they were feelings of anger as well as feelings of joy. They were just feelings that you had. So just simply observe. Think about something that may have happened that you weren't feeling completely peaceful about today. I know it might be a stretch, but try to find something that you didn't feel completely peaceful about today. And then say, oh, in that moment, I was certainly not desiring peace. In that moment, I was certainly not desiring peace. In that moment, I certainly wasn't desiring perfect remembrance. How interesting. So when you have an upsetting thought or an upsetting feeling, you're supposed to say to yourself, just observe it, don't judge it, and go, wow, I was really upset this morning. I certainly was not desiring peace. In that moment, I certainly wasn't desiring remembrance of truth. How interesting. If you can find a moment in this day that you have lived so far, even as you are listening to this lesson, 5 minutes after you got up out of the bed, if you look well into those 5 minutes, you might just discover that there has been at least a moment today, at least a moment, in which you were not deliberately choosing to desire the remembrance of your union with the Creator. You might have had at least a moment today that you were not desiring to remember your union with love. You might just have one moment today. Now, does that mean that you're walking around saying, I desire union with God, I desire union with God, I desire union with God? Those are just words. I desire union with God. Those are just words. The desire is a feeling. It's a feeling that pervades your heart. You might say that you can feel it in your body. But your body is really just the depth of your mind anyway. So I want you to look well and see if there was a moment in which you were using the power of the mind. See if there's been a day today that you've been using the power of the mind to decide against the kingdom of love. I say it again. See if there was a moment in this day that you were using the power of your mind to decide against your peace. When you find that moment that you were deciding against your peace, you're just supposed to look at it. Observe it with innocence and simply say, I could have chosen otherwise. I'll say it again. When you think about any time today that you were getting upset about anything, you're just supposed to look at it, observe it with innocence, and just simply say to yourself, you know what, in that situation with that person, in that circumstance, I could have decided another way. That is the simplicity and the power of what the kingdom is. So, I'll repeat it again. The world remains uncaused by anything outside of your own mind. There is nothing in your world that's not being caused by your mind. There is nothing in your world that's not being caused by your mind. There is no situation or circumstance that you're going through right now, be it something that you love or something that you don't love, that's not being caused by your own mind. Yet within it, you are given complete dominion over your mind. Your mind is the kingdom you must rule. And since everything is coming out of your mind, that's really good news to know. If everything you experience comes from your mind and you have complete dominion over your mind, then you actually are not a victim of anything that you are experiencing. This means that the one mind of Christ, which is the one mind of love, which is the one mind of your true self, in that one mind, your individuation occurs. For just a moment, look at your Christ mind, your love mind, as an ocean, where there are individual waves arising, made of the same substance, perfect freedom, perfect knowledge, perfect union with God. But in that freedom, see, when it says you are free, it's saying you have the power to decide. You have the power to decide. You have the power to deserve and to desire to be present. Your desire begets worlds. Your desire begets worlds without end. That is what this entire planet once came from. This entire planet came from a desire. Your entire existence came from a desire. You are alive today because something desired that you live and that you exist. You're sitting here today because something desired for you to exist. Your entire universe was born of desire. So desire isn't a bad word. Desire isn't a bad thing. Desire is a feeling. If you don't feel it in your body, you're not really feeling it in your mind. So to have a desire that doesn't inspire, to have a desire that doesn't inspire, to have a desire that doesn't inspire isn't a true desire. If it's not a feeling, if you don't feel it, according to this, it's not really a true desire. So if you find yourself getting emotional about the things that upset you, then that's a desire and that's a feeling, and that's why it creates more of the stuff that upsets you, because the things that upset you are the things you get emotional about. The things you get emotional about are the things you propel into physical reality. When I say that you are loving, when I say that you're innocent, when I say that you're a spirit, and I say that you only deserve love, you may not feel anything behind that, so therefore it doesn't look like you're creating that in your world. That's why people see witnesses to what upsets them more than they see witnesses sometimes to what inspires them. Because we get more emotion behind what we think we don't like than the things we think we like. And then you draw other people to you who feel the same way, and it looks like that's just the way it is. Because you're surrounded by witnesses to your own unhappy state of mind. So you complain, and then you find yourself surrounded by people who also complain. Like attracts like. So, any questions, any thoughts about that first part of the way of mastery today, observing your choices? Are you clear that he just told us the way you're supposed to deal with your ego thoughts? You're supposed to observe them innocently. And then tell yourself, I could have chosen peace instead of this. But without condemning yourself, judging yourself, and making it such a big deal. You just got upset again. It certainly shouldn't be anything new to us by now. When you think about it, I mean, why do we still freak out about getting upset as many times as we have done it since we've been born? But we'll react as if it's a brand new thing, because this is the big one. The rest of them wasn't the big one. But today's upset, that's the one. That's the one that's going to do it. So, any thoughts, any questions, any comments?
Earl.
Sure, darling.
Okay. This is a cute little story. I was speaking to my mom this week. She lives in New Jersey. She's 80, and she goes to her little get-together groups with her ladies. And she shared a story with me about a lady who told her, "You're deaf, you can't hear anything." And my mother gave it back to her. But she was so compelled to tell this story to me, and I was just listening. And what just came to me about I could have chosen otherwise is I believe that inherently she knew she could have chosen otherwise. And the reason why we make these choices to even share stories like that is to look for people that are going to back us up and say, oh, you did the right thing. And I think it was when I just sat there and listened to her and didn't say like, you gave it to her, good going there. I didn't have to say a word. And she was directed to and she even articulated this. She said, yeah, you know what? That probably wasn't the right thing to do. So I guess what I'm sharing is by knowing this, even if it's us not experiencing that, I should have, like when we hear stories from other people, we have a choice to kind of just listen and allow them to come to that sort of understanding, and it also like that line really frees us from guilt.
sometimes if you would go ahead and let a person vent and say everything that they've got to say just the way they need to say it without interfering with them or without correcting them, the Course says behind that fear is always love. So if you could ever just express what you feel just the way you feel it without feeling guilt about it, without someone saying anything, you will get to your peace that's behind that. But what happens is usually when you're frightened or upset and you're expressing it, you trigger the part of that person that feels exactly the same way. So they try to stop you before you can get it out, because you're triggering their own feelings, and they're in denial about it. And so you're making them aware of what they're trying to hide from themselves, because if they didn't feel the same way, then they would feel okay about letting you express yourself without being affected themselves. So always check out, who is it that won't let me get what I've got to say out? You know, well, that's the person that's being triggered by what I'm saying or doing. And like you said, it's by you not saying anything and
She didn't know how to
right,
handle it. I
right,
think, like,
right.
initially she thought I was judging her because I didn't say anything and I didn't back up, like, yeah, good. And then she kind of rode the wave and got to that point where I believe she sort of freed herself from.
That's also the perfect example of projection. When you're quiet, then people go ahead and project their thoughts on you about where they think you were coming from because you weren't saying anything. You know. So sometimes people think because I'm not responding, it means I agree with them. In most cases, it just don't matter what they're saying. That's why I'm not saying anything, because they're just expressing themselves, and in the end, my happiness is going to come from me. So my happiness is going to come from what I'm telling myself about what they're saying, which doesn't have anything to do with what they're saying. And they're not going to hear me anyway. They're only going to hear their interpretation of what I'm saying. People are never hearing you. Haven't you noticed? Yeah, they're never hearing you. I'm amazed at the things that people tell me I've said in my classes. Amazed. Or what? You know, but they just projected their interpretation of what I said on me and said, Earl said. That's happening all day. But the key to this is, can you have all your feelings? That's the key to this whole thing, is can you have all your feelings, look on them in innocence and say, I must have decided not to choose for peace right now. That's why I'm upset, not because of what the person is saying or doing. Saw somebody's hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been working on the concept of abiding in Christ. And
Please speak up.
I've been working on the concept of abiding in Christ, and rather than my little alarm clock going off and doing it on the I thought, well, I'm just going to let it happen. You know, when I all of a sudden I'm walking down the street, I think, well, why can't I abide in Christ right now? But I find that, you know, I start to get into it, and then my mind will start to drift into all kinds of weird stuff. So I keep thinking, like, I mean, here it's kind of just watch it and just innocently just kind of watch it and let that bring you back, you know, to the concept of, I could have thought something different, because sometimes I just feel like I just get lost in that.
The key is to say, in this moment, I am certainly not desiring peace. In this moment, I'm choosing to react the way. It doesn't even matter what's happening. What the empowerment of what he's saying, I believe, is in you understanding very clearly that you always have two choices about how you're going to respond to anything. And so ultimately, the way that you're feeling is coming from your choice and not from the situation.
So then the concept would be, when you catch it, kind of anchor yourself with that, even if you flip back into the other thing and just keep using that. As
You might say it 100 times a day. Oh, in that moment, I certainly was not desiring peace. And then notice he says, just go, how interesting. See, if I was to make losing my temper interesting, then I'd heal my mind. If I was to make my worry, I'm worrying again. I'm certainly choosing not. I could choose peace instead of this, but I'm choosing to worry. That's interesting. See, it's taking the guilt away that keeps you from doing it over and over again. The guilt, or putting yourself down for saying it, makes you keep doing it over and over again, because the part of your mind that believes you don't deserve to be happy loves to focus on the things that you beat yourself up about. So the minute you beat yourself up, even about attacking somebody, you're actually going to repeat it over and over again. That part of your mind that wants you to suffer because it thinks you're not worthy of love, which some of us have. We know we have it because we're not happy. Then that part is you just giving it fuel every time you have no tolerance for your own upset. So it's having tolerance for your upset that takes away its power. It's not beating yourself up about it that takes away its power. That gives it power. And that's what the way a master keeps saying over and over again. All your feelings are innocent. All your feelings are acceptable. They're just your feelings. And you're not having but two feelings anyway, love or fear. That's all you're feeling all day long. Peace or conflict, love or fear. Anybody else before I go on? Mm-hmm.
I have a thought. It's something that I try and live with daily, and it's the first thought, first action rule. You know, I don't have control over that first thought, but I always have control over my first action.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
now if I choose to respond to that first thought, chances are I'm going to be living in a reaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
versus taking action on a new course.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. It may seem like I'm not responsible for my first thought, but I'm obviously responsible for my first action. You know, I could have a desire to run down 2 or 3 people a day, depending on whether or not they walk out in front of the street, in front of my car. You know, that might be the first thought. But my first action should not be to put my foot on the gas pedal and jam it to the floor. So it doesn't matter. And so in that sense, stop feeling guilty about stuff you haven't done. You know, most people are beating themselves up all day about stuff they haven't done, but just stuff that they thought. You know, so you really haven't done as much to people as you think you have. You actually can't hurt anybody anyway. That's a whole nother class. Yes, darling.
I'd like to clarify something.
Mm-hmm.
External in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we choose not to be peaceful? Is it because we don't believe we're ultimately deserving of love?
Boom, bingo, bingo,
Bingo.
bing, bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing. Exactly. You know, if I don't think I deserve to be loved based on learning that I'm not valuable, then certainly a person that's not loving and not valuable doesn't kind of think they deserve to have a totally peaceful, prosperous, abundant life. You know, so it all comes down to self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, and whether or not you love yourself. That's why I think the most important thing you can do is surround yourself with people who are also trying to love themselves. That way, you know, both of you all know you're working on it, so you're not going to be perfect at it, but you're also supporting each other toward that goal. I'd much rather be in a relationship with somebody who want to be sane and know they're crazy than somebody that's crazy that think they're sane. And that's most of the people in the world, right? They forget that the aliens are not, you know, abducting people, they're dropping them off. Earth is the mental hospital of the galaxy. That's why, as far as the telescopes can see, they don't see any signs of intelligent life. The signs of intelligent life are as far away from us as they can get. And they're observing us, hoping that we'll get our act together. You know, like it's like putting a group of people in a room that's conflicting and say, don't come out the room until you all have solved that problem. That's us. It's like we're all here together, having to learn how to look at each other differently until we do. But the good part is when you really choose to go for being a peaceful person, it's very protective because people who need conflict aren't interested in people who want peace. You're not attracted to them. They will. Rejection is protection and redirection, right? Okay. So let's go to the next part. Yes.
I have one question to ask you. Projection is what you said about how you track people like, you know, you like stuff like this, but it's really not the events. If you believe that all events are neutral, it's your thoughts that you keep on using over and over again. Because you once said something really profound for me. It's not the event, it's what you're thinking and projecting onto that event that's causing you the
Right,
pain
exactly.
and the upset and stuff
Exactly.
like this.
Exactly.
So all you're doing is just replaying a belief,
Mm-hmm.
a reaction
Mm-hmm.
that you feel comfortable with to do whatever you want, and that's usually to give you pain because you feel guilty,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just trying to reinforce it over and over again. So it really doesn't matter what people or events are around you or appear to be crossing your path. It's your
Right.
your
Exactly.
your
Way you're looking at
mindset.
it, your
your-
mindset. And that's what I said at the very beginning when I said, like, when people are talking, in most cases, I'm not saying anything because I realize in the end it's just going to be what I'm telling myself that's going to determine how I feel, which is exactly just another way of saying the same thing that you're saying. All events are neutral. You know, me having that fire in my apartment was neutral, but certainly my reaction to it wasn't. You know, and so I don't have any control over anything at this point other than whether I'm going to choose to look at it in a way that I can give myself peace and use it to motivate me more toward my goal, which it did because I saw God protect me. I know a voice told me to take a look out on that balcony, but when I had no reason to look out there and see there was a fire going. So to me, the most important thing I can do is have peace, because it says if you have peace of mind, you can hear your inner guide. You cannot hear your inner guidance if your mind is full of conflict and fear. So if you're a person that keeps yourself upset again, you're cutting yourself off from your guidance, and that's the purpose of the upset. The fearful ego part of the mind needs conflict to exist. So the fearful part of you needs conflict to exist. So all it does is try to point out lacks in your experience or something in your experience that needs to change in order for you to be happy. And that's what we're being told. There are not but two states of mind, a loving state of mind and a fearful state of mind. If you want to be separate from people, you have to have some level of a fearful state of mind because fear makes you contract. If you want to join with people, you have to let go of your fear because love joins and unifies. So when I'm afraid of you, I'm going to contract from you. If I don't trust you, I'm going to contract from you. So the part of me that wants to be separate has a vested interest in suspicion and fear and anger and upset, and is always looking for some reason to be upset. The part of me that loves me is always looking for reasons to join and to unify and to support peace and freedom. It's very simple. And so what we're being told tonight is it always boils down to I could have chosen peace instead of this. Even if I didn't, and I lost my temper anyway, if I remind myself that there was a choice to lose my temper, then at some point I also have the choice not to. So I'll reiterate. It's not about what you're upset about. That doesn't even matter. It doesn't mean anything anyway. You'll substitute something new for that as soon as you get that helm. You can count on it. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to deal with individual problems anyway. Unless you get into unless you understand the mindset that's making you create all these different problems, you can try to solve every one of them one by one, and you'll never be successful. The real issue is, why do I want to be upset? Why do I keep this going? And then the truth tells us, well, you think you're separate from God. You think you're separate from your source. You think you're separate from everybody around you, and that's why you're afraid. No, I'm afraid because I'm going down the alley at night. No, you're afraid because you're choosing to think you're walking down the alley at night without God. Separate, fearful, with some strangers that you think can attack you. It's funny. It's like we get up, he says we get up in the morning as if there's a threat that we've got to defend ourselves against all day long, even though nothing has actually happened yet. The day just started. But I'm all prepared to do battle to make sure nobody takes advantage of me. Funny. So let's go to the key to transformation. Now remember, when you're here in the class, I'm not trying to convert you. What we're doing is we're sharing thoughts from the way of mastery that could possibly give us another way of looking at things that would allow us to get rid of the conflict, that would allow us to hear our own divine guidance. So my job is to make myself unnecessary. My goal is to make myself unnecessary. And it's one of the few things in life I'm successful with most people. I always generally, at some point, become unnecessary, which is great, which is cool. I used to think that bugged me, but now I realize my life is like a song. And you can't listen to a really cool song unless there are a lot of notes. And to play one note, you have to let go of a note. And so if you're ready for your life to be a concerto, you got to start being willing to let go of people and let them come, and let go of people and let them come, and let go of people and let them come, so you can have this great soundtrack to your life. Rather than trying to find one note and go, how many songs would you buy like that? But if you're notice the notes have to go up and down and be released. But we don't want to do that. We grab hold of people out of our fear of lack, and we until there's nothing left for them or the relationship. So the key to transformation. The key to transformation. What does it say? Assume complete responsibility. Assume how much? Complete. Complete what? Did it say assume complete blame? Did not say assume complete blame. So if you blame yourself, you're not taking responsibility for what's happening when you're blaming yourself. You're not taking responsibility for anything when you blame yourself. You can tell when you're blaming yourself, because when you blame yourself, you don't feel peace. When you take responsibility, you feel more peace. So if you say, oh, I did that to myself, I'm so tired of doing that to myself. Okay, that's not taking responsibility. That's blaming yourself. So you're not really practicing the truth if you're going all day going, there I go again, I did it to myself again. That's blaming yourself. That's not taking responsibility. If I'm taking responsibility, I know I got choices. And if I know I got choices, I don't feel upset because I know I can choose for something else, so I'm not trapped. If I'm blaming, I act like it happened and I had nothing to do with it and I can't control it. Right? So he said the key to transformation of your lived experience while the body lasts. The key to transformation is to assume complete responsibility for what? How you're choosing to use your mind. So when it says assume complete responsibility, I'm not assuming complete responsibility for your life and what's happening to you. I'm not assuming complete responsibility for what's going on with my children. I'm not assuming complete responsibility for what's going on in the world. I'm assuming complete responsibility for how I choose to use my mind. You're being asked to assume complete responsibility for how you choose to use your mind. So when it says accept complete responsibilities for what? How you choose to use your mind. That should relieve you. Also remember, only you can think a thought, just like the man was saying, that only you can have an idea. As a matter of fact, the Course in Miracles says something radical. It says you are an idea. You're not a body, you're an idea. You're an idea in the mind of the Creator. You are an idea in the mind of the Creator. Then it says something even more radical. It says God is an idea. And we have a tendency to think an idea is not as real as a physical form. So it's almost like if I say it's an idea, it seems like it's nebulous. But actually it's just the opposite. Ideas live much longer than the form they take. I got a TV the other night, and I brought it home, and it was brand new out of the box, and I put it together and I plugged it in, and the screen was completely smashed, but I couldn't tell it by the way, because the TV was off. And when it was on, I could see that somebody had been punched, and they still packed it as if it was new.
Wow.
And so, and I went back to exchange it, and I got another TV just like it that worked. So the idea of the TV produced another TV that was just like it that worked. So what was real? The idea behind it or the TV I bought? You see what I mean? The form could be replaced, but the idea, it was what was real. It was the idea behind the TV. So it's the idea of you that's real, and the form of you constantly changes. My body does not look like it did when I was 10 years old. The form constantly changes, but the idea of me still exists. Got it? And I bet it's true for you too, no matter what age your body is. The essential you that you are is the same one that played in the yard when you were a kid. You just have more mistakes to forgive now. Because you live longer. So you got more stuff that you need to forgive yourself for. But other than that, you're the same person. I remember my grandmother, she was over 100 years old, and she was talking about how it was weird that her body looked the way that it did, but she felt the same on the inside as she ever felt. And I know that's true for me, but I know my body isn't me. That's obvious because of what it can do. Okay. Compared to what it used to do. You know what I'm saying? I used to party all night long. You know, y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, now what I don't do with my body, I make up with attitude.
That's right. Got it.
That's right. I got plenty of attitude on the dance floor now. I can attitude to 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
But the Course said when you use your body correctly and you're really using it for what it was meant to be used for, and you let go of your guilt, it says your body will stop changing. So the body is changing because you're not using it for what it was meant to be used for, which is to help you remember who you really are. And let's face it, that's not the first thing the average person do when they get up in the morning. I want to use my body to remember that I'm a divine part of all that is and connected to spirit 100% all the time. And I want to use my body to make sure I know that all day. That's not what the average person. I want to go skiing. You know what I'm saying? You know, I want to go to the movie. That's what my body is for. You know, so the truth just makes so much sense. You could use your body to remember who you are, and you could go to the movie and use your body to remember who you are, and you could go skiing and use your body to remember who you are, and you could go dancing and remember. So you could keep your purpose steady no matter what you're doing with your body. There's no sacrifice on this path. So he says, remember, only you can think a thought, only you can have an idea. That idea cannot enter your domain over which you have complete dominion unless you have sent that idea an invitation. So ideas can't have an effect on you unless you invite them in. So nobody can psychically affect you. Listen carefully. No one can psychically affect you unless you invite them to have that influence over you. Period. Nobody's making you think any particular way. That's good news, right? Because what that does, it frees me up to be around anybody at any time without fear. Because in the end, I'm the one who's going to choose how much effect what you are saying has on me. And the clearer you are about who you are, the less you can be affected by anybody else's belief system. But if you are not certain in your own belief system, you can be swayed by anybody that you're around. And most people aren't. They don't know what they believe, right? I mean, we let people tell us what we should wear, which is really crazy to me. That somebody can sit up in an office and design something and tell me I need to be wearing it or I'm out of style. You know, I show up at this class all the time with sweaters I've had 20 years and get compliments. Okay. Wait till I come here with my Nehru jacket. And now some of y'all old enough to know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all going, Nehru, what's that, a strange creature? What is that? You know, it's some clothes back in the 60s. Okay. It is a mirror of what God is. What is God? Let me give you another term for God. Infinite and perfect freedom. How about that? God, infinite and perfect freedom, simply never deviates from desiring only the extension of love. So you could say love never deviates from desiring only the extension of love, which is the birthing of that which is like unto itself. What does that mean? You. So love only desires to extend love. Freedom only desires to extend freedom. If I love you, I just want to extend love to you. If I love you, I want to extend love to you. I don't love you and want to extend fear and criticism and judgment to you. It doesn't work that way. I can't love you and be condemning you and judging you and attacking you. Love can only extend love, which is freedom. It's easy to tell who loves you. It's easy to tell who loves you. It's not hard to tell who loves you, who's freeing you, who's not condemning you, who's seeing you as who you really are, who's accepting you as you are, who's wanting to see who you are and not try to get you to act out their agenda. It's easy to tell who loves you. But are you doing the same thing? Have you got a bunch of scripts for everybody around you that you're getting upset about if they don't do? Well, that's why you're attracted to this person that's doing the same thing to you. That's why you're with them. That's why you can't leave them. You just like them. You know, it's almost like if you want to, it's almost like if you are in denial about your own ego, about your own selfishness or fear or unconsciousness, then you have to deny it's there. So you can see yourself as being a nice person. Because everybody makes up a face of being a nice person. And then you take the part of you that's not such a nice person and you project it into the people around you. And then you see your own not nice personness in the people that you're close to. And the reason why you can't get away from them is because they are reflecting you back to you, and you know that. That's why you can seem like you're around people who are just the opposite of the way you think you are, but you cannot get away from them for anything, because a part of you doesn't want to get away from yourself. And they're also doing you the favor of mirroring back to you your own subconscious beliefs about yourself so that they can be healed. That's what they're doing. So if you see yourself as a nice person surrounded by people who have real issues, you got real issues. But you're telling yourself you don't, because you're nice. You're the nice one. You're just so nice. Your face is just wet with tears about all the injustices that people do to people who are nice. Wouldn't you'd be nice all the time, wouldn't you, if they didn't make you have to want to get them? None of us would hurt anybody, you know. Like us truth students, we got our mace and our affirmations and our 45s. You are an innocent child of God. Oh, God, I'd much rather be around a person who tells the truth about their ego than a person who doesn't. You know, because the person who tells the truth about their ego is going to have more self-control than the person who pretends they don't have one. So, he says, your will is joined with your Creator's when you decide to birth only that which reflects love, the good, the holy, and the beautiful. So how do you know when you are joined with the will of the Creator? It's because the only thing you want to extend in your world is what's good, what's loving, and what's beautiful. It's not really complicated. How can I tell when I'm in alignment with the will of God? I just want to give what's loving to you, what's beautiful to you, and what's holy to you. That's the only way I want to be used. That's the only way I want my body to be used. It's for love. You know, I have no interest in loving and being made love to or extending love with somebody that doesn't love me. I used to didn't care. As a matter of fact, they complicated things. Okay. But when you start getting to what's really valuable, you get turned on by the mind the way you used to get turned on by the body. Actually more. You'd be much more concerned about how fine their mind is. You just slap it to somebody like, you got the finest mind I've ever seen in my life. Lord, have mercy, girl, your mind's so hot. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Those of you who are waking up, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody's got a body, and most bodies got the same things on them. So to be honest, they're really not different bodies. They're different shapes, right? So, you know, there's not anything that one woman's body has that all women's body doesn't have usually. You know, and the same thing about men. So it really isn't any such thing as having different bodies. What's really interesting is the mind that's functioning through it. That's what's going to be interesting. That's what's going to be unique. That's what's going to be different. The body parts kind of come with it. But I used to didn't think that. It used to be more like, oh, I want that shape, and 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 that body, you know. And those of you who don't mind being straight up, you know what I'm talking about. I know spiritual people have a hard time admitting that they have any interest in the body. Just so what do you mean? I've never thought about a body. I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? I have no interest in the body. Denial is not a river in Egypt. Okay. But there's a lot of bodies, so why make that such a big deal? You'll never run out of bodies. There's plenty of bodies. But sane minds, that's supreme. Don't you see what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, bodies, they're down a dozen. But a sane, loving mind, a conscious being that wants to wake up and that wants you to feel innocent and joyful, now that's truly a unique thing to come across. So, the mind as you have come to know it will deceive you into thinking, well, if I live that way 95% of the time, then what the heck, 5% of the time I can do something else. That's absolutely true. The more you come to truly desire only that which reflects the truth of who you are, the more you come to truly desire only that which reflects the truth of who you are, you will be able to tolerate less and less variance within yourself. The more you wake up spiritually, the more intolerable you will become of not being peaceful and loving. So you'll find that minor intrusions of discomfort affect you more than they used to, not less than they used to. Being spiritual doesn't mean you become more tolerant of your suffering. It means you become more intolerant of suffering the more you wake up, because you know you don't have to. Where before then the world said, that's just the way life is. But when you begin to recognize the truth, you know you don't have to suffer, you don't have to be in lack, you don't have to be miserable, you don't have to be alone, you don't have to do things you don't love. So when you're in situations where you're not being true to yourself, it becomes more intolerable to you. And that's a good thing. So if you're finding yourself getting more upset now in a way about minor intrusions on your comfort, that's not a sign that you're backsliding. It's actually a sign that you're beginning to love yourself more, because you don't want to tolerate the things that don't bring you peace anymore. And now you know that it's not the things that's not bringing you peace, it's the choices you're making in your mind that's not bringing you peace. That's when you really begin to win. I'm so happy my happiness don't depend on y'all. I just want y'all to know I'm so happy that my happiness don't depend on any of you. Isn't that wonderful? I don't have to wait for y'all to act a certain way or be a certain way or act out my scripts. Or, you don't have to do nothing for me except, the love offering. But, it's like, do that. But you get what I'm saying? Now there's hope.
Yes.
Now there's hope. Now I can forgive you because you're not doing nothing to me. Wow. To me, that's great news. That's great news. I can forgive my father for what he ever did. I can forgive everybody that I think has ever hurt me in my life. They never did. I did. About them. Every time I start to feel unhappy about anything now, the inner voice says, oh, if they were different, you'd be happy. That's the instant response of my mind now. Oh, if this were different, you'd be happy. Just as soon as I go, okay, oh, if this was different, you'd be happy. That is so good, because it's constantly reminding me that nothing about my happiness is dependent on them. That is a great feeling. Try it. You start to feel like you can finally be happy for the first time in your life, because it would be totally under your control. I like being in control. I'm a control freak. So if you can teach me how to use my control freak tendencies in a way that benefit me, I don't have to try to get rid of my control freak tendencies. They benefit me. So I can control me now. Wow. I like that. I can't control you. I wanted to. I can't. But me, so I still got my desire to control, but I love knowing that you don't control how I feel. I do. Even though I'm not good at it completely yet. Just like when you learn how to drive a car, you end up on the curb a few times. But you kept on driving until now you can talk on the phone, cook dinner, and watch TV all while you're driving. That just shows you how good we get nowadays. They have whole, videos in the car, everything in the car. It's a wonder none of us are not crashing into each other all day. That's why they're coming up with driverless cars, because they found out that a car without us driving it has less accidents.
That's right.
Because they've been testing these driverless. I read about that.
Yeah.
They've been testing
Yeah.
these, and they're 10 times safer
Yeah.
than we are behind the wheel, because they don't get distracted. They have sensors all over them, and they communicate with each other. I think that's interesting, the lengths we'll go to do the things that we like. I want to, you know what I'm saying? I want to text while I'm driving. Well, let's create a driverless car. Then I can just text and watch my favorite soap opera and everything. The things we'll do for comfort just is amazing to me. You know? Yeah. That's going to be the first time you get in one of those cars. That's going to be a trip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Could you imagine getting in your car and it just drives off with you in it? They showed this grandmama in a driverless car and she was freaking out. It went viral, you know, it's like tripping her totally completely out. You know, you stand out front and your car come from the parking lot to pick you up. That is deep. That is deep. But that's because it's just a reflection of our ability to move objects with our mind. But the only way we can accept that we're doing that is pretending like the car is able to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like we think we need phones to communicate. It's just symbolic of our telepathy, but we are not at the level of consciousness that we can accept that we're just communicating mind to mind into one mind, so to look like I'm holding this thing up in order to talk to you. That's what's really happening. Woo! You not believe that. So it says, that is why when any mind truly begins to awaken, when any mind, say something these 4 times if you can. When any mind truly begins to awaken, the mind becomes what? More and more painful to continue certain thoughts or behaviors that do not reflect the deep desire of the heart. So as you wake up, it becomes more painful not to be loving, not to be peaceful, not to be sane. And that is why the gap becomes less and less. What gap? The gap of unconsciousness becomes less and less. That's the gap in which the mind tries to defend its choices and perceptions. So an unconscious mind is a mind that's trying to defend its way of seeing things, even though it's not bringing it any peace. In other words, an unconscious mind is a mind that would rather be right than happy. So if you're with somebody that'd rather be right than happy, you're dealing with an unconscious part of yourself. Don't forget, there's always yourself. There is but one self. We're all part of that one self. So any unconsciousness that you see in anybody else is just your own unconsciousness. We're one. I'm saying to you what you are asking me to say to you. It's just one man.
So does that work the opposite way? If I see upward spirals of spiritual awareness and
That's
other
right.
people,
That's absolutely.
I'm just not seeing my own.
That's right. That's right. If you're putting yourself down, but you're surrounded by loving people, you got a lot of loving thoughts about yourself that you're in denial about. If you see yourself sometimes being around people that think they're treating you better than you deserve to be treated, that means you love yourself more than you think you do. If you see yourself as a completely loving, cool person and you're surrounded by people who look like they're one step from the insane asylum in jail, then that means you got a whole lot of unconsciousness that you don't know about that need to be healed. So if you're the nice person, there's always something bad happening to, you got some unconscious fear thoughts that need to be healed. If you're a person that's always putting yourself down, but it looks like you're surrounded by cool people, you love yourself more than you think you do. And if you are a loving person who's surrounded by loving people more and more, that's what's going on all the way through you. Just like I said, and then the strangers start to reflect that to you, just like the story I reflected to you all one day about getting on the elevator in my apartment building, and this young lady just grabbed me and just hugged me really close and put her head on my chest, and then got off the elevator and left. So even strangers start to just channel love to you, because it's your own consciousness coming back to you through anybody's. You know, it's been funny wearing these heart-shaped glasses, especially the red ones, because sometimes I think people are flirting with me and they just relate, they just appreciating the glasses. I walked in the restaurant the other day and this girl just did like that, and I was like, oh, it's my glasses. It's my glasses. So I got 2 more pair. I got another pair y'all haven't seen. I didn't know it been that simple just buying a pair of damn glasses. I wouldn't have to study for 35 And that's why I got a dark pair, because the red pair just attract too much attention.
Yes, that's
You know, so I had to, like, we just cool it down a little bit. You know? Yeah. But it's a trip to watch people just, like when I went back to take the TV and the girl just bust into a big smile. So she immediately wanted to make my exchange as easy as she could. I would notice that every time people smile, then they get into the happy place. And when they get into the happy place, they're willing to be kinder than usual.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if somebody really going off, I'm just going to go.
We're the red ones.
That's right, we're the red ones. So it's so good. It's so good. So did y'all hear when he said, the more you wake up, the more painful certain thoughts and behaviors become? And then it says that's why the gap becomes less and less, the gap of unconsciousness, the gap in which the mind tries to what? Defend its choices and perceptions until finally it rests in complete vulnerability. The mind lives in complete innocence and no longer, and please listen carefully. When a mind is living in complete innocence, it no longer fears to change within its own system of thought. When you feel innocent, you're not afraid to change. I have changed. That experience I gave myself where my life looked like in the body, looked like it could have ended very easily, changed my perception in a big way. So I look like the same person to you, but I'm not the same person at all. And so then it becomes like you are a person in a new neighborhood that you don't know your way around in. That's the way I feel right now. Like I don't know my way around the Earl neighborhood right now. So I'm checking myself out. What do I want to do? What do I really want? How do I want to teach? How do I want to, what I want to exit my life? He said, that's the one question he says in the Way of Master you should be asking yourself all day. What do I really want? What do I really want? What do I really want? What do I truly want? What do I truly want? And you know what I truly want? God's will be done. Because I realize I don't even know what will make me happy. I don't know where my happiness is located. And one thing for sure, it hasn't been located in anything I've ever done. So why repeat it? So it's never been in a relationship, so I'm not looking for a relationship to make me happy anymore. It's never been in any amount of money I've had, and I've had extremes of financial prosperity. I still wasn't happy. You know what I'm saying? So I know it's none of those things, so why should I just try to choose different forms of that again, thinking I'm going to get a different result? Because the error I was making was thinking that that thing was going to make me happy in the first place. Now I don't think that it'll make me happy, so now I can move to a real happiness, because I can give myself happiness about it, and then I can enjoy it. I can give myself happiness about my car, my house, my friends. So now I can be happy with them, but I no longer look for them to make me happy. That's the difference. So you'll be enjoying the world more than you ever have before, because it won't have any control over the way you feel. So I can enjoy all of you, whether you enjoy me or not. And whenever you think about the times you ever had with anybody, you're only remembering your reaction to them. You're not remembering their reactions to you. So when you say, oh, that last boyfriend I had was the best one ever, you're just remembering how you felt with your last boyfriend. He might be saying, I'm so glad I got away from her. I don't know what to do. She was a screw, buddy. You know, his reaction to you might have been totally different. But your reaction to, that's the problem about, I'm into photography and I love to take pictures. I've done it since I was 16 years old. You know, if you look through your picture albums, you don't usually have pictures of people beating you up or angry. Have you ever seen anybody show you a picture album and they go, look, this is when my friend clubbed me in the head. And this one right here is when, see, this is when I got stabbed in 1974. See that knife in my gut? Right? So when I go back and I look at my friends and I look at pictures, I'm always looking at happiness. So even if I had something happen between me and them, I'll have a tendency to want to forgive really, really quick, because all I'm looking at is the happy times. They don't have that reminder. So they're only thinking of me in terms of whatever it was that made them feel separate from me. Where I'm having a constant reminder that that wasn't our whole relationship. Because people tend to think of you only in terms of how they felt about you in the last encounter they had with you, and they overlook everything that you experienced before that. So pictures are really what the Course says about remembering only the loving thoughts. So then I'm ready to, so I see somebody that even if it was a negative experience we had at the end and I run into them, I'm ready to just forgive because I'm remembering the good times because I can see it. You know, so the Course says forgiveness is remembering only the loving thoughts and forgetting the rest. And the truth is, you had more loving times with them than you had bad times, if you be honest with yourself.
Absolutely.
You know. So, if you're living in complete innocence, he says, your mind no longer fears change within its system of thought. Your mind no longer fears being challenged by another mind because it thirsts only for the creation of a thought system that can birth forth the good, the beautiful, and the holy. So I don't mind being challenged by you all's minds because you all are guaranteed to give me a perspective that I wouldn't think of. Because I see the truth like this. Like when I'm teaching, like this is the truth, okay? This is my perspective of the cup. And it's true. I'm looking at this cup and I go, I see a shadow. And it's true. You're looking at it from that side, you see light, but it's still the truth. So you're seeing a perspective I'm not seeing. So you're really helping me have a holographic view of the cup. So when I listen to your ways of looking at things, it's just giving me a more complete picture of the whole. So I don't have to feel challenged by your points of view. And I don't have to be wrong for you to be right, and you don't have to be wrong for me to be right. But that's the way our ego acts like. It's like it's either you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong. That's what most people approach it, rather than going, well, Earl, you just gave me another point of view. That's all you're doing in this class, is you're just giving another point of view. And I welcome that point of view. But I'm going to give you another point of view. And it's equally as valid also. And I don't have to feel threatened by that, challenged by that, or feel like I need to change my point of view. I just incorporate yours. Makes everything easier. Right, and when people feel like you are incorporating their point of view and you're honoring their point of view, they have this radical tendency to do the same thing with yours. It's the most interesting thing. So when you go visit those relatives who think you're crazy because of the way you believe, but you know your uncle loves to fish, then you need to talk to him about what's the best way to fish. He'll be so glad to talk about it because he loves it. You all would find a point of joining. And because you found a point of joining, you may find for some strange reason, he's more open to hearing your points of view now. Because you found a point you could join on. So always look at what you can join with a person on before you're looking at your differences. And then that'll lead them and you to join, and so y'all will actually become more open and maybe more tolerant. You know, to another person. I can't even remember the last time anybody in my life challenged my belief system. But they were doing it all the time when I first got into the truth. Had people come to the door trying to save me. Because in the beginning, you don't believe what you're learning that's new yourself, so you meet your own doubts through the people that you attract to you when you're learning something new. That's why in the beginning, you need to be around the people that reflect your new belief system as much as possible, because you're doubting at the beginning, so you're going to draw people easily to you who reflect your doubts back, and they challenge your new belief because you don't really believe it yet yourself. So they say, that's some crazy stuff you believe because you think it's some crazy stuff you're trying to believe. But the ones you accept it, they disappear. It's the weirdest thing. They disappear because you're not defending anymore. I love it. This stuff is true. I'm telling you, it's true. It is so true. I'm telling you, making your life harder than it has to be. But I have to honor your right to do that. That's what you do when you're honoring somebody. You even honor their right to make all kinds of decisions that bring them pain. Because you know they can change when they get ready. But you don't stop and wait for them. You keep on moving forward, and you be ready to embrace them when they're ready to do it differently. You're ready to, but you don't hang around and wait until they decide to change. You can. That'd be your free choice. But I would advise you not to. Why? Because you're delaying your own happiness. And they need to see you happy. They need to see, I need to see some happy people. You know. It's hard to express yourself the best you can express yourself sometimes when you still are influenced by what looks like is going on outside of you, and you're looking at faces that look like they're miserable in your presence. It's hard not to be affected by that at first. You know, that's why when you're around people, you might want to. Well, some people think they're smiling and they look like this. You don't see me smiling. No, but I don't see no smile. They don't look like you're smiling to me. Sometimes when you think you're smiling, don't move your face and go to the mirror. You'll be shocked at the way your face looks. You think I have the most pleasant face in the world. All right. Okay, two more sentences. The mind no longer explains when you feel innocent, and your mind no longer defends. So when you start to really feel innocent, you don't feel any need to explain yourself to anybody, and you don't feel the need to defend yourself at all. So now when people are telling me what they think I said, or how they think I am, or what they think I've done, now listen patiently and go, thank you for sharing. Appreciate you letting me know what you think about me. Don't mean that's what I think about me, but I'm sure glad you let me know what you think about me. I need to know that. And if you attack people, they won't tell you what they think. So when someone's confessing to you and they're telling you the truth and they're trying to be honest, like I was telling the person I was counseling the other day, what's the benefit of your boyfriend being honest with you if you're going to go off every time he does? What's the benefit to him? What's going to be his motivation to tell you anything? We just need to be honest. Well, why? What's the benefit? He gets attacked every time he does. Yeah. Why would he? So it's amazing to me that people think they can attack people for being honest with them and then expect the person to continue to want to do it. But they actually do. I don't understand why he wouldn't tell me. You don't? You know, the knife against his throat, you don't think that had it? It had a little bit to do with it. But we do it, don't we? We tell people to tell us the truth, and then we go off on them for doing it. And then say, why won't you tell me the truth? Because you go off when I do. And the person will get to the point that their peace is more important than being honest with you. And they'll just say, so they'll start sharing their true thoughts less and less and less. You'll be the last one to know what's going on with them, and they leave you. You feel blown away. How could he do that? You have not been paying attention. They didn't just leave you. They gave you 1,000,000 hints before they walked out the door. You were so self-absorbed, you never noticed. No such thing as they just left me. Nobody just leaves somebody who's cool. He was really nice and they just left you, didn't they? I'm a nice person. I know you are. You're just so sweet and crazy. Just the cutest crazy person ever was. You know. So so your mind will no longer explain, no longer defend, and no longer seek to convince. When you wake up, you will stop explaining, stop defending, and stop convincing. All right, let's acknowledge ourselves for hearing this much, guys. You just give it to you. The world's going to give you what you give you. You know what I'm saying? So this is always an opportunity for us to give ourselves what we'd like the world to give us. So let's try that again. Let's acknowledge us. I believe that anything I heard was true, and I'm not willing to give myself what I want to receive. That means I missed the whole point of everything that's been said tonight. And then I also see where there's a part of me that doesn't want to acknowledge me. If I was to say acknowledge somebody else, it would have been louder from the very beginning. But when you say, I used to play a song in my class that was nothing but saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. And people would go crazy. They couldn't stand that song. Because it was just telling them that they were loved and they were lovable and they were loving, and it would bring up everything in them. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Online, thank you for sharing. I'm a full-time teacher. Thank you for sharing with me. If you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, you can go to my website, earlpurdy.com. And also I'm available for one-on-one sessions where we bring this truth to your particular issue or circumstance and give you another way to look at it, you don't have an original problem. There's no such thing as an original problem. And those who are open-minded to a more intuitive approach, I also have practiced astrology and numerology for a long time, and I'll bring that into the session for those who are open-minded about that. So I want you to know that spirit can talk to you through me if it resonates with you. I only want to work with people who want to work with me, who find me irresistible. That's the only people I like to be around, people who find me irresistible. Okay, because you can't resist somebody you love. 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 You can't resist something you love. You can't resist something you love. You can't resist something you love. You can resist something you fear, but you can't resist something you love. It would never occur to you to resist it because you want to join with it. So you draw close to what you love and you recoil from what you fear. You know, that's why you kind of sometimes, even when you're dancing, you kind of give somebody a little space and you see if they come towards you on their own. You know, do they want to come into your space? Or if you find yourself moving forward and every time you move forward, they go, you know, that's true. That's a hint. That's a hint. Pay attention. Pay attention. You never have to seduce somebody that's meant for you. You never have to seduce somebody that's on the same wavelength as you. You have to seduce people who aren't. And you usually regret it later. You know, beware of what you want, for you may get it. And you've had that experience too, right? Where you wanted something or somebody really bad and you got it and you go, oh my God, what is it? Well, your first hint that they probably wasn't the first right person was you chose them. That was your first clue. Why? Because it was your pattern that chose them. That's why you were attracted to them. They were your pattern. And if your pattern is cool relationship, that's cool, right? Pattern is neutral. You could have a pattern of really wonderful people. So I don't think that's a negative thing necessarily. So what kind of people are you all attracting to you now? I mean, seriously, I mean, yeah, are you pretty much attracting really cool people? Are you still attracting people that you wonder why they're still out on the street, walking on the street? You know, it's like, what kind of people are, I mean, you leave this room and you go back into your personal life, how many times in the upcoming week are you going to hear somebody say, I love you, I appreciate you, you're valuable, you're a blessing in my life? I hear that now more in 1 week than I used to hear it in 2 or 3 years. In a week. In a week. So even though I don't believe that about myself completely, I'm beginning to believe it about myself. It's hard not to believe something that you're hearing over and over and over and over again, even though in the end you're going to have to accept it for yourself. But at least you all are helping me make that choice. And I love you for that. Because don't you think for a second that I don't have an ego just like you that tells me I'm lacking, there's something missing in me too. You know, so I thank you. You're a blessing.
Thank you.
In my life, y'all are really just super cool. And you juicy, and you cute, and luscious. And I'm not going to say anything else really good, y'all will think I'm just full of crap. Because when people say stuff more than what you believe about yourself, you think they're lying to you. Isn't that the trip?
Yeah.
If I said something to you that's more nice than you think you deserve, you're going to say, Earl just got a game he's running down. You know? Okay. I would say hold hands, but people hate holding hands.
I do.
Even though they say they want to join. Okay, hold hands. If you don't mind. If you don't mind. If you don't want to hold hands anyway. It's just yourself you're holding. It's just yourself you're holding. It's just you you're holding. Here's a great song. I love y'all so much. I'm so glad I'm still here with you.
Yes.
Me and Donna, we were in Hawaii one time doing a workshop, and it was this heir to the Coca-Cola fortune that was at the workshop, and he paid for us to have little condos on the beach all by ourselves in Kauai. Being a course teacher is rough.
You'll not find it where I
want you to hear this. You never thought you'd hear bluegrass spiritual truth in the Earl Purdy class, did you?
There's a love not of this world. The only real love. You'll not find it where I search. It's only in the wake up to what you really are. Wake up.
Sing it, Donna.
You are the very thing you've been searching for.
What else, Donna?
Very thing you thought you needed more of. Guiltless, sinless, child of God. Love is all you are. There's a love not of this world. The only real love.
Give their hand a little squeeze.
You'll not find it where I search. It's only in the wake up.
Wake up.
To what you really are. Wake up.
Wake up.
Search only for what is false. Let it go. Give up the cost of holding on to what you think you know. Listen to the voice of love. It's calling you, telling you, wake up to the only true reality of you. You are love, not of this world.
You are a love not of this world.
The only real love. You'll not find it where you search. It's only in the waking up. Wake up.
Wake up.
To what you really are. Wake up.
Wake up.
This world offers you nothing that you need.
Say what?
You are the extension of all that is and never will be.
Wow.
When will you believe? When will you come home to me? Wake up,
Wake up.
wake up,
Wake up.
and see a love not of this world.
Is it the only real love?
The only real love.
Where would I find it?
You'll not find it where I search. It's only in the waking up.
Wake up.
Wake up to what you really are. Wake
Give them one more little squeeze. Oh, yeah. Have a little hand castle. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're good for you as it was for me. Let's acknowledge our Holy Spirit. I love you. Thank you for coming out. Hope to see you Sunday. And Cheryl wants to make a quick announcement right now.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cheryl, otherwise known as the Laughing Course Student.